starting with this, we have Professor Peter Glasheen. And Peter, I see you here, so please go ahead and take it away. No problem, Peter.
Sorry. Good afternoon, good evening, good night. Where I am, it's morning. So hello, everybody. My name's Peter Glasheen. Thanks again, Dr. Hanadi, for inviting me along to this. It looks like a really interesting session. I think the energy question is a huge one. I think there is solutions out there, but I think it's the demands are going to be exponential on there. So how we do that with non-renewable resources is a big challenge. I've actually got a little project of my own as an entrepreneur on the side where we're talking about different forms of mechanical energy storage systems. So I like the talking all around that energy space because it's only going to get, as people come up the chain and we all start to live better lives, especially the bottom part of the world that we live in, then energy demand will go through the roof. So there's only going to be more and more people. I was remembering this book here, Factfulness, from Hans Rosling, and he talks about the needs and population growth, and then the needs of that population as it grows as well. I mean, as we all progress, everybody wants their air conditioning and their TVs and their lighting and so on. So apart from then all the collaboration that happens through the fantastic things happening here. I'm going to quickly share my slides because that will get us going in the right direction. Thank you. Just give me 2 seconds. And I think I've just lost my slide deck because I had it all prepared. There we go. Great. Okay, so thanks very much, guys. And what I'm going to talk through in terms of this context here is essential innovation capabilities for driving economic diversification through AI. And I've highlighted there in italics the through AI because that's kind of like the differentiator. And I'm going to run you through an area here today. I'm going to talk about some capabilities, these capabilities for driving economic diversification. I'm going to give examples. But there's so much content that we'll come back to that later on, and there's a copy of the presentation with extra notes for everybody as well. So let me start going forward. This is an old famous one. Cedric Price, as everybody knows, was a famous architect, English architect, died about 2003, but he had a great quote attributed to him, "Technology is the answer, but what was the question?" And I've paraphrased that around AI. So AI is the answer, but what was the question? And the question we might pose is, what innovations, capabilities might drive economic diversification? And then on top of that, what might they be to drive economic diversification through artificial intelligence? And I thought I'd put some practical sense around these. What we've done is come up with a feasibility versus impact matrix of using these capabilities for driving economic diversification through AI. So it's, imagine that's almost a dictate from a board or whatever else like that. Guys, how are we going to drive economic diversification, and how can we engage with AI that's available out there now in organisations? Remembering most organisations don't want to take risk on new fancy areas of AI. What is the AI that's out there that might be available for us to use? So in terms of the metrics, very simple. Feasibility is how easy is it to implement. Impact is the potential to drive economic diversification through AI. So that's our little matrix there. And we've done a scoring system on each of the capabilities where one would be low, which means not easy to implement and doesn't drive economic diversification much in terms of impact, and 2's medium, 3's high. Where do we get these innovation capabilities from? Well, in this case, I'm using innovation capabilities from the Innovation 360 group. And these innovation capabilities, and there's 66 of them that is used, sit behind this wheel of innovation, and there's 16 aspects of innovation here and that sort of stuff. And we'll come back to this, but that's where we get the capabilities from, and we've chosen 6 that will drive economic diversification through AI to the greatest extent, and then we rank each of those, give a bit of a description, give some examples of how AI might do that. Quickly, to make everybody an expert, we'll come back to that. Organisations are either trying to drive profit, so they'll be interested in capabilities down the bottom half of the wheel, and other organisations are about driving growth, so they'll be interested in what the capabilities are above. And some are driving innovation, external transformation to the organisation, and others are about internal transformation of the organisation through innovation. And then you can split it down into what's our market, our offer and our sales innovation and customer engagement, etc., and innovating in the organisation, etc., or through our marketing ecosystem as well. So that's where they're coming from. Let me just click back on that. And these are the 6 capabilities that we're going to focus on. So are we DNA focused or not? Systematic service innovation, understanding customers' decisions, IP protection and pricing, idea generation and prototyping, and cross-function collaboration. Now, they're the ones that we're going to look at, and we'll just move through that. Just coming back to that, like I said, we'll rank each one in terms of impact and feasibility, and then a score, so that we can come away with something quite practical about how to use these capabilities, again, for driving economic diversification. The first one, and again, too much on here to go through, so I'm just going to give a few little highlights around this as well, is why does AI matter in terms of DNA focus? So let's just go back to what is DNA focus? Well, the quick definition is it's the core strengths of an organisation aligned with new diversification opportunities. So core strengths, that's something internal to the organisation. With new diversification opportunities only exist in the outside world, the external world, yeah? Costs exist inside an organisation, so the core strengths. So how do we take core strengths, align them with new diversification opportunities, and what might AI do to help us do that? So it enables companies to analyse internal strengths, strategically aligning these to strengths with new market opportunities, and then ensuring that the diversification efforts that we build on is what the organisation is best at, okay? Now, in the world, as we know, there's always the top 25% of innovating organisations, and there's the other 75% as well. So what I've done here in this is to give some recommendations for what weak organisations might do and what strong organisations might do. So if you're weaker at this, then you'd want to do normal things we do. Internal strengths and weaknesses analysis to evaluate what its DNA is like, link its strengths to AI-driven opportunities in new sectors. That'll give us economic diversification. And then we need to get employees engaged across functions, workshops to change our culture and that as well. So again, I'm not going to go into too much detail on that. It was more about this is the capability and so on. So again, what strengths have I got? What are the opportunities that exist outside? How do I use these to take advantage? Now, here's some examples of AI that would suit this. And first off, let's just get it out of the road. In terms of feasibility, etc., then it's in terms of this one, it's medium in terms of feasibility, but high in terms of impact. And here's a couple of examples about AI that might be able to help. So, for example, IBM Watson, probably one that most people have heard of as well. And we can use that to analyse internal documents, unstructured data, and that'll help organisations perform deep internal assessments, strengths and weaknesses, and identify core strengths for diversification. Now, how might this have happened before? We might all go to lunch, have a very great lunch. Afterwards, we sit down and we have a brainstorming and say, what are our strengths? Yeah. Now, this way, what AI does is, like we said, allows us to look at huge amounts of unstructured data, documents, etc., and really identify what those strengths might be so that we can really build upon those as well. And then that's for the weaker organisations. And those with stronger ones, they might be able to integrate with other business intelligence platforms and provide continuous insights on evolving core strengths. What are we getting better at? And then help the organisations align with market demands during diversification. So 2 examples. By the way, should say, these are not recommendations in terms of the particular AI solution. They're just examples of the AI solution that will do what we're trying to achieve to build this capability for economic diversification, if that's what's appropriate for your organisation and the situation that your organisation is in. Okay, I need to move. So again, I'll work through. The next capability was systematic service innovation, and that's continuous innovation of services based on customer data and AI insights. So it really matters because it helps companies innovate systematically. Remember, we don't want ad hoc innovation. We want a well-oiled machine that just keeps going. And then that enables them to meet emerging market demands and develop new revenue streams as part of their diversification strategy. Again, I've put some recommendations in here as well, and we can't go through all of those at the moment, but you can see some of the sort of thinking around there. Couple of AI examples for this. For weak organisations, Salesforce, Einstein, that's going to give you AI-driven customer feedback analysis and service recommendations. So that's going to help businesses innovate new services. And then, you know, when you get stronger at this capability, then you can use something like Azure that's going to incorporate advanced AI capabilities such as sentiment analysis and real-time language translation. We talked about crossing cultures and borders, etc., enabling rapid iteration and service delivery into new markets, those markets that you don't understand. So this is where AI can help. The next one was understanding customers' decision-making processes. That's using AI to analyse customer behaviour and decision-making processes. And it matters because businesses with real-time insights into customer behaviour and decision-making process will allow organisations to tailor new offers and diversify into new segments effectively. So that's why that's important. Again, and you know, if you're weak at it, you've got to invest in AI-powered tools to look at enable deep customer journey mapping, for example. And if you're strong at it, you might want to use AI analytics to predict and anticipate changes in customer behaviour to stay ahead of the market. Couple of examples again. Qualtrics, really good at analysing customer journeys and decision-making processes using AI. And if you're good at it, then you can use machine learning to predict customer behaviour and provide real-time insights. This one, funnily enough, has the highest ranking in terms of feasibility and impact. And then the next capability we saw for driving economic diversification was idea generation and prototyping, where we can use AI to rapidly generate and prototype new ideas. And I think, yeah, this is all about speed to market, outcompeting using AI to do so. And here we can start to look at why it matters is because we want to accelerate idea generation and prototyping. And I've heard other speakers talking about quickly testing and validating new concepts. And that's critical when we're exploring new markets and sectors, especially around services. Products, there's always that lag because it just takes longer to do. And again, some recommendations for weak organisations and so on. And then in terms of AI tools, then, you know, this is high in terms of feasibility, a little bit less in terms of impacts on the scoring. But here's some examples for those making products. Autodesk generative design. That's going to help you generate thousands of designs rather than having to go through iterations of what do I think of next? Oh, let's tweak that. Let's bend that piece of metal differently. Let's add something here. This new software allows you to go through iterations on paper well beforehand. We just helped a client set up a fully automated sheet metal factory, and it went from the process of on the design sheet running software that would actually tell if that particular piece of sheet metal could be bent, in fact, before it went anywhere near machines down in the factory. So really, really good type stuff. And then this one's really good in terms of IBM AI OpenScale as well. So, and it can provide real-time feedback to refine innovations. If you're going to go into economic diversification, then you want to look at IP protection and pricing systems, and AI helps businesses secure their innovations and create dynamic pricing models. What if you could react in real time? You know, that's where AI with good rules around it can help you do that, so you can maximize profitability, or volume or whatever else you're trying to achieve in there as well. And it might allow you, when you're working across borders, to move into new sectors and new markets as part of diversification. So AI type tools here can really help. And again, some recommendations if you're weak for your organisation or strong. And then two really good ones here. This is an area that is quite interesting. This AI software allows you to put through all IP management services. So you could do all your patent monitoring, your portfolio management, your automated analysis of legal risks, etc. It's a really interesting platform, and AI can help there. And then this one's really good from the pricing point of view to dynamically adjust pricing strategies, etc. I'm aware on time, Aaron, so I'm moving through a little bit. And lastly, we've got cross-function collaboration. I think I've heard a lot of people talk about collaboration. So this matters because diversification requires collaboration in multiple departments, R&D, marketing, finance, operations, which could be in different companies and also different cultures. So cross-functional collaboration ensures that the insights that are shared and integrated across the business. And some examples of the AI here is, Asana. So it streamlines cross-functional project management. I think we're probably more used to AI tools now developing in these collaboration areas. So people are interested in tools that have been around before, Slack, and now there's iterations of Slack that enhance its collaboration through artificial intelligence as well. It has also it's medium in terms of feasibility and medium in terms of impact across there as well. So I didn't want to go through all of those. It's more a slide deck to share and go through afterwards, and if you want to have questions around that as well. But we've got these 6 capabilities. So why don't we kind of reveal then around where they are at? And if you're only going to focus on one of those capabilities, then it would have been understanding customers' decision-making around that. And this is where AI can have a big impact. But again, it's got to be around what's right for your organisation and what your aspiration is with your innovation efforts. So you kind of have to work back around that. So that's kind of where the scoring came out onto all of that. Let's just have another little look back into here. So what I did here is that we're back to these 6 capabilities. And you can see that if you were trying to drive profit, then there's 4 capabilities down here that would be really good to focus on. And if you were trying to drive market growth, then you'd focus on these 2 capabilities. So it helps organisations understand where they want to put their efforts. I think I can go through that. I think that's kind of pretty self-explanatory there around how they sit. And like I said, too much content for now. That's why I put it into the slide deck. People, if they're interested, should come back and have a look later on. Oh, by the way, this is the sort of gap between, the top innovators in their scores on these capabilities and the other 75% of innovators. So if you want to drive economic diversification, these are what we recommend as the 6 capabilities to do so, and some hints and applications of artificial intelligence that can help you do that exist today. So we're not talking about inventing new artificial intelligence. We're talking about tools that organisations can get to work with basically tomorrow. And some of those are easier to implement and some will have greater impact. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Peter. That's I love that organization around how to use these tools and distinguishing between the strong and weak organizations. My strategy professor side of me loves that. So thank you. That was very helpful in looking. We do have a question from Brian Cassidy for you, Peter, but we're going to hold questions for right now just to go on to the next speaker, and then we will come back to questions at the end. So thank you again, Peter. And our next speaker is Sarah Nasser with the World Intellectual Property Organization. So please go ahead, Sarah.
Hi, Aaron, and hi, everyone. Thank you very much for giving me the floor. It's both a pleasure and an honor to be here with all of you. And just wanted first to extend my sincere thanks to the partners and colleagues for their outstanding work in bringing this conference to life. So my presentation here will mainly focus on what WIPO is doing to support the development of what we call IP and innovation ecosystems to drive economic growth. And I will have a specific focus on our work with or for SMEs. Allow me first to introduce myself a bit better. I work in the IP for Business division that you can see here on this slide, which serves as the central reference point for all IP-related matters concerning SMEs within WIPO, which WIPO stands for the World Intellectual Property Organization. Maybe I didn't mention it before. And among our key activities is the development of tools and resources for businesses, such as a guide that we call Enterprising Ideas and the WIPO IP Diagnostic Tool, which I will be also presenting shortly. But before delving into the details of what we do, I'd like to take a moment to provide some context, what we call the bigger picture. And this will also allow me to mention elements that fits more into the topic of today's discussion. And it will also explain the driving force behind WIPO, our division, our tools, and their broader impact. So the bigger picture, what is it about? There are mainly three elements that our division has identified. The first trend is the continuous rise of the intangible economy from a worldwide value of $8 trillion in 1996 to nearly 62 trillion in 2023. Today, products and services from all sectors, companies of all sizes, constantly and increasingly use and generate intangible assets, no matter where they come from. And intangible assets, in turn, are governed by IP law. So companies can no longer ignore IP. Today, IP, it's not a luxury good, it's a necessity. So that's the first trend that we keep in mind. The second one relates to today businesses and the way they operate. The products usually tend to involve a regime complex of several IP rights and not just one IP right. So think, for example, of a simple product like a sneaker. It involves designs, trademarks, there are some brand management aspects, potentially also some patents if some components like the shoe seal are protected. There are some know-how in the manufacturing. There are also some aspects related to online retail and much more. And this applies to many other sectors. The phone that you may have when you go grab a coffee at your nearest coffee shop, there's some IP. So IP is everywhere. There are some tech companies, digital media, and the list goes on. The third trend is what we see actually as the most important one. For businesses, IP is critical to minimize risks and maximize value creation. Two startups can have a similar innovative products, but the thin line between success and failure is whether and how they use their IP assets. And here, this is why also smart and effective IP management is key to access finance. We all know that access to finance is a major challenge for SMEs in many parts of the world now. IP assets are increasingly recognized by banks and specialized lenders, which suggests also that there is a significant contribution of IP to firm success and growth. One of the most exciting developments in recent years has been the advent of IP-backed financing. In collaboration with various international financial institutions, WIPO is working also to educate banks, investors on how IP can serve as collateral IP assets, such as patents and trademarks, and can be also valued and leveraged similarly to physical assets to get their much needed capital. By recognizing IP as collateral, financial institutions can provide loans to IP-rich firms, especially in the high-tech sectors where the primary asset is often the innovation itself. And an IP strategy's main function, whatever company is developing such kind of strategy, is that it will allow them to reduce the high risk associated with these intangibles. And most of the SMEs nowadays are intangible intensive, and ensure also for them better scalability where all the conditions are met. So if all other conditions are met, meaning that there is a product or an invention with a value proposition, usually the IP strategy will help ensure that they will be scalable in the future. Moreover, we think that IP makes intangibles generative, meaning that they're huge source of revenue, so they can allow them to generate more revenues. And IP will give the investors and the financier better assurance about the risks that they're taking and their potential return on investment. And this is what investors are looking for, actually, because it can make a difference between failure and success, once again, for the same exact intangible. So for the businesses that are probably with us today, what I would like to say is think about IP like a combination between insurance and stock option. This is why investors and financiers put their money where IP lies. And data clearly demonstrate also that companies with IP have better performances, if you're not yet convinced, as well as better success rates in attracting investors. For instance, SMEs who own intangible assets in the form of protected IP rights experience a 68% revenue advantage compared to those without IP. And this is according to a joint study from the EU IPO and the EPO. IP is a must, again, for SMEs and startups to make businesses in the intangible economy. And I included another data, I think, here on the slide, but I will just move on to the next one. But in short, what I'm trying to get and the message I'm trying to convey once again is that IP is what we call a key business enabler. And this allows me to jump now to the presentation of my division. Our menu of program, as you can see on this slide, addresses the entire value chain of SMEs and startups, meaning that, of course, we work with our natural partner, the national IP offices, but we also work with what we call business intermediaries or business support institutions. And here we're thinking about incubators, accelerators, innovation agencies. And we also have programs that target directly companies on the ground, which is called the IP Management Clinic program and the one-day IP workshop for startups. So these two programs allow us to interact directly with companies, also with the support of international experts in IP, but also in what we call IP strategies that have also the business perspective of IP and how it implicates to the business journey. Maybe you may wonder, why do we focus so much on SMEs and startups? And you may have the answers as well. These businesses play an important economic and social role in global economies, and this is a trend that is widely recognized. They are the primary driver of innovation, technological advancement, and competition. These businesses, they're agile, they're hungry for success. They may be economically fragile on the short term, but some of them even, I guess, will fail. But altogether, when you invest in your IP and when these companies will invest in their IP, we believe that they will have long-term resilience and success. And that's how we are trying to promote IP to this category of businesses. Now you may wonder, how exactly can they leverage IP to boost their growth and success through our support? And here I will mention our tools. So earlier I mentioned our key programs, but our division has also been developing resources to support the use of IP by businesses. And they are listed here on this slide. And I will go just one by one quickly to be mindful of the time. Here, the first one is called the WIPO IP Diagnostic Tool. It's an online self-assessment tool that helps SMEs or any individual that do not know anything about IP to identify their IP assets and receive customized reports on their IP situation. One thing I want to highlight is that this tool does not, of course, replace the advice of a legal counsel in IP or an IP expert, but it's really good start to understand what IP rights they may have, to get some key advices as to how to start with the management of this right, how to protect this right, how to enforce them. There are some key issues like employees, contracts, what should be included in this contract in terms of IP, what clauses should be included also in contracts with third parties and partners when it comes to confidentiality, but also IP ownership. So all these key issues are included in a very concise way, and most importantly, in a customized way. So whatever reports will be generated by this tool are customized to the situation of the user. This tool has been translated in over 20 languages, I believe. It is free of charge. Anyone can go on our website, check out if there are any localized resources. So, because sometimes we even have resources that are national or regional adaptation, meaning that the reports will integrate references to the local legislation. For instance, if you're from Lithuania and you connect, you will be able to get reports that refer directly to the Lithuanian law. So they're even more accurate than general IP information. And again, it's very user-friendly. You can do it on your phone or on your computer. And we hope that this will allow afterwards the user to go to an expert, discuss the results, and really start putting into paper a proper IP strategy and take the appropriate steps to protect their intangible assets. Another tool is our series of guides on IP for businesses, and here they're also designed to help SMEs understand why it is important to protect their IP, protect their intangible assets through IP, and what are the benefits they can draw from this use. They're actually designed in a way where you have a list of questions in the summary at the beginning, and then you can jump to the question that's most relevant to you and get your answer. So we have a guide on trademark, patent, design, and so on. And our most recent guide is called Enterprising Ideas, a guide to IP for startups. And here, this guide is all about the startup journey. Each startup's journey is unique, but in this guide, the readers will explore 6 key phases that show how IP can take their ideas, products, or services to the market and beyond. It is not just a guide, it's considered as a compass, and it starts basically with the concept that at the core of many successful companies is a single innovative idea. And it will start by helping the users understand how to determine if their innovation is truly new and worth protecting. And there on this slide, you can see the other phases where the next step will focus after identifying the innovation or the creation to focus on the market appeal, to be able to stand out in the global market. It will also walk the reader through the different steps they need to safeguard those assets. And once the local presence has been established, usually you have to think about expanding internationally, and this involves also IP protection abroad in these markets. And we will here highlight WIPO international filing systems that can help that can help facilitate these processes. And the guide will also mention how to generate revenue through this IP rights by either selling or licensing your IP, and some tips as well as to how to avoid infringements of other people's rights, which is also very important for the success of a business. That would be it for me, I believe. Thank you so much for your attention, and if you have any question, I'll be happy to answer. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for all the resources sharing too. Those I took notes of several of those to pass around. Thank you. We are going to come back to questions at the end, but for now, let's go on to our next presenter, Ricardo Pinho from SOPAC. So Ricardo, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me one more year. So this year, we decided at SOPAC that we would refrain from going through a presentation on our software, but focus more on impact investing and impact management in order to build some capacity. So ideally, the goal today is to present you with the outcomes of the impact measurement space. So what we see today is that impact investments are investments made with the intention to generate positive, measurable social and financial, social and environmental impact alongside a financial return. So there are these 3 characteristics that are sustaining the power of impact investment. So impact investments is a new term for the new economy, the impact economy. So we move beyond the GDP analysis that is in place since the 1940s, and ultimately we will start measuring the quality of life as compared to the simple measurement of GDP. So what happens is that companies that seek stakeholder value and financial value have higher shareholder returns. So according to data from Bain, we can see that the data shows that organizations have higher financial value creation and higher stakeholder value for customers, employees, suppliers, and communities. They show 10-year total shareholder returns of 338%. So this is a sign for us to start looking both at financial value and stakeholder value. So what is impact? In the common analysis of return and risk, impact is a third dimension that is analyzed, and this third dimension brings in a series of other instruments like venture philanthropy, like microfinance, like investment in clean tech, that allows you to compare beyond the simple return and risk. And here we have the example of a US Treasury, ultimately then to analyze according to one more dimension. So impacts occurs across a spectrum called the spectrum of capital. On the left, we have traditional investors that don't consider any type of impact goals. And then on the right, extreme right, we have philanthropy that usually accepts full loss of capital. So the impact economy is this space in between that holds the responsible, the sustainable, and the impact investing concepts that ultimately and respectively, they act to avoid harms, to benefit stakeholders, and ultimately to contribute to solutions. So SOPACT acts on this space where organizations are interested in measuring their ESG risks and opportunities, and not only that, but also analyzing the impact that their businesses or their programs generate. So what is impact management? Impact management sits in between monitoring and evaluation, program management, and impact measurement. So it looks at the past while having a clear idea of what is going on in the present, and to take the intentional aspect of impact measurement, measuring the future impacts. So impact is what would have happened without the activity, is the difference, I mean, between what would have happened without the activity and what happens with the activity. So organizations, when trying to measure the impact, they are trying to measure this change in the behavior, changed condition between before implementing a program and after implementing a program. There are many ways to measure impact, many processes. Usually at SOPACT, we go through the theory of change and contribution in analysis that allow organizations to build on a theory of change that we will see shortly, and ultimately understand their contribution, the additionality that their program brings. So what is a theory of change? A theory of change is a framework that allows organizations to map their inputs, their activities, their outputs, outcomes, and impact, and in this case, allows organizations to think with the long-term mindset in order to map what are the effects on people and planet of the activities that they are performing. So usually what happens is that organizations measure mostly outputs. So we at SOPACT, we enforce that organizations should move beyond outputs to map and measure their outcomes and impact. In this case, we speak about an organization that works with improved eyesight, improved school performance, improved health and well-being, and other areas. So ultimately, the goal is to measure those benefits. So in a nutshell, a theory of change is a framework that allows you to map because why something happens, we work, where do you work, to help who, what, and how in order to when. So because those with unmet needs remain invisible to the health system, we work in Africa and Asia to serve health program providers, strengthen systems and service delivery with a software and data intelligence platform in order to prevent more than 1 billion people from untreated vision loss by 2015. So this gives you a view of the impact of the organization in the future to what stakeholders. A very common approach to measure impact lies on the Sustainable Development Goals. So these 17 goals brought together by UN allow organizations to map on specific global goals that tap into zero hunger, to health outcomes, as well as gender equality, climate action, or any other topic. There are different frameworks used to measure the impact. One that is very common alongside investors are the 5 dimensions of impact. The 5 dimensions of impact are: what are the outcomes, who are the stakeholders, how much is the change, what is your contribution in terms of investment or in terms of enterprise contribution, and what are the impact risks. So these 5 dimensions allow you to map all your impacts across it so that you start categorizing them. Another framework that is commonly used amongst investors is the operating principles for impact management that ultimately seeks to measure and validate impact across the investment life cycle, from the strategic intention together with the due diligence and origination of a deal throughout the life cycle of the investment, going through the impact at exit. Ultimately, the goal with the operating principles is that impact should be assessed by a third party independent verification to validate your practices. One very useful insight coming from the Blue Mark is the practice leaderboard that allows organizations to understand alongside the investment life cycle how are investors putting in practice all their impact management learning. So with that, ultimately the goal is to understand that investors are mapping their impact objectives across the Sustainable Development Goals. They are using portfolio level impact management. They calculate and assess the investor contribution. They assess impact at due diligence stage. Ultimately, then they go through the investment life cycle to understand the ESG risk management, monitoring the impact across the investment life cycle, and ultimately consider impact at exit and the impact review that I have spoken. So we at SOPACT, we are strong in terms of data storytelling. So we map data to deliver dashboards that allow investors and organizations to understand their impact. So despite the effort, the relative ROI of traditional fundraising methods has stagnated and even declined. There is a better way that uses impact to tell compelling stories. That's the reason why that we use AI and business intelligence to focus on a specific key problem statement, demonstrating the causality and showcasing improvements through pre and post analysis. I guess that's all from my side. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Ricardo. Thanks for sharing your work on this. We now have 15 minutes for questions from the participants and those also in attendance. If you would like to, you can type in your questions in the chat if you're on the attendee side. And we do have our first one. It was from Brian to Peter. It says, Peter, have you seen anyone using AI to analyze the work people are doing in a company before they leave to create like coaches or mentors for people taking their job? So I think it looks like work assessment paired with some sort of training mentorship to improve performance. Oh, you're muted, Peter.
I forgot everybody can't lip read. Now, yeah, good. Actually, good question. I was actually talking to an Australian-based organisation. You might recognise from the accent that I am Australian, here in Sydney, and it's a company called Beamable, B-E-A-M-I-B-L-E, and they actually do that workforce analysis. It's an artificial intelligence-based tool that holds an organisation. You can come in almost like in an intervention stage and look at the work that people are doing, and it can measure, especially what Ricardo, I thought was just very interesting what he was talking there around impact. I mean, impact goes beyond just the straight vision of a company because there's so much broader around that as well. Sometimes vision is just, you know, couched way of talking about financial returns they want to achieve in the future. So I think impact is a great thing there. This talks about the work that people are actually doing in organizations. You can tag the types of activities and you can see if they are aligned to the objectives of the organization. So again, if I took what Ricardo was talking about, we could say, are the activities that our people are having on a day-to-day basis working towards having an impact against the objectives on there? As much as it might be strategic goals or strategic initiatives, or like we always say, I like Ricardo's ones, he's got a gap there on impact. We might have one on growth. So my strategic initiatives are going to get me that growth. Are my people working on that? So yes, there is AI workforce tools out there. They're not the ones that you use on a daily basis type stuff. They're more ones that allow you to measure, are my people working on the interesting stuff and the important stuff? And that'll make it better. Then I can analyze that data that comes back and I can work out whether they could be doing something else, or we could be creating new jobs, or we could be replacing all the mundane things that they're doing with AI stuff that's easy to do. And that'll be a better, more engaged workforce as well. So there's one example for that question, Brian.
That's great, Peter. And Brian had a follow-up, just says thank you, and ask if you could put a link to the name of the company in the chat, if you're able to do that.
Sure.
Yeah. And this is please, anybody else with questions, chime in on the chat too, but it's kind of a follow on this one, I guess for Peter and Ricardo. Like the use of AI does allow for the measurement of these things, whether it be impact or performance, or, you know, is it moving toward the company's strategic goals? I guess, are you seeing a change in the ways that companies record their actions and data to enable AI to analyze it? Because I can think of things that would escape our current AI's like data structures, and there may be need for organizational change to help with that.
It's a very good question, Aaron. So we at SOPACT, for the last 2-3 years, we've been implementing AI in our product in order to simplify the journey and allow for data analysis in a much shorter time, particularly when it comes to qualitative data analysis. The tool allows organizations to get insights in a matter of minutes. So by categorizing texts, categorizing open-ended questions, or transcripts. We allow organizations to have insights in a matter of minutes, whereas before they had to skim through a lot of open-ended responses from surveys in terms of feedback on their programs and services. Today, with AI, we simplify this process. So I believe that's an advantage of the technology today for the benefit of the organizations that can report and learn on their impact much faster and with much less resources than before.
Oh, interesting. Peter, did you have anything to add to that, or?
No. I'm really happy. I had a good answer on the first one. So
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Sarah, I had a question for you, and this is a big one for IP, but with all the value that IP creates for companies and organizations, new ventures, any and all of them, there's also this tension of like IP disclosure and AI replication that can happen, meaning if you put forth your IP to protect it, you have to disclose it. And then AI can more easily replicate at least aspects of it. How are you seeing that shape right now of this, maybe leaning more toward trade secrets, or is it just trying to rely more on AI IP enforcement, or any and all insights you have on that would be interesting.
Thank you so much for this question. It's quite interesting. I'll try to answer it to the best of my ability without giving out my opinion on it as well. But I would say it's an issue even before AI. It was always an issue, this issue of disclosure when you have to protect your innovation. And it's a balance that any business has to make between applying for a patent and then having the exclusivity over it for 20 years, but also having to pay all the costs related to patent application and market analysis and trying to check that no one is infringing. So it can be a lot of investment when it comes to resources, time, money, but it's worth it if you believe that trade secrets is hard to keep. So it's a balance to make. I wouldn't advise to do one or the other, and any business have to ask themselves a few questions like, do I have enough money and time? Is my invention can be, how do we, the word is escaping my mind, but when reverse engineered or not. If it is easily reverse engineered, then probably trade secret is better option. Is my product also something that, competitors can easily reproduce, but also do something even better, and then my product will just lose its interest and it won't be innovative anymore because my competitors have done even better than me in a few years. Then in that case, probably trade secret is better as well. Kodak actually was one of the cases where they got surpassed by their competitors and they lost a lot of market share because everyone was doing a lot better than them, and it became obsolete, whatever patents that they applied for. So yeah, I would say it's a balance for every business to make. Yeah, thanks.
No, I know. I really appreciate that. Please.
AI issue is just, an additional issue, but this question of disclosure was always, I think, the case before. Yeah, thanks.
No, I hear that. No, that's a very good point. Thank you for the perspective on that. Are you also seeing changes then, Sarah, on like the IP either monitoring or enforcement from the AI perspective?
Myself, not so much in the work that I do, but it was very interesting to hear from Peter on all those tools that AI is now providing to monitor the market and make it easier for IP protection. So I learned a lot today, actually. So yeah.
Yeah, Peter, do you mind elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, no. Actually, I was going to say the same thing back to Sarah. I learned a hell of a lot in there today, and actually, I was just doing some stuff on WIPO the other day because I was just writing a report around the latest innovation global report that you guys put out there as well, and what Australia needs to do to lift its rankings in terms of its global position. I think the same thing as well. I think what I would say is it's like anything in business. You can't be static. You have to keep innovating to stay ahead of the competition. And look, AI is just another tool to do that. Remember, you know, use that slide. AI was the answer. What was the question? So I think you've just always got to come back to that. Remember, I sometimes try and take it really basic and go, just imagine AI was a welding machine. I can give the welding machine to 10 different people. They'll all get different quality results in using AI. So you've got to look at how you use it and how you work with it. And you've got to train in how to use it, just like you would with anything else. Yeah. So I also think the trade secret type stuff is you've just got to keep ahead of it. And again, Aaron, I think you said you come back, you're a strategy guy as well. I love my old Porter definition, which is just keep building a whole bunch of activities and strategic choices that's going to be really hard for your competitor to replicate. So it's not just down to reverse engineering my product. It's also about the intellectual protection or intellectual property that I build around my services, how I deliver my product to my market, all those little things. All of that adds up. And you know, people can walk into a McDonald's and see what they do, but can they go out and replicate it? No, they can't. So to me, it's not just, you know, intellectual property is just not one thing. It's not just about your product. It's about building a whole bunch of stuff into all parts of your business, whether that's production, services, your management systems, your organization, your business model. It's not just the one thing. It's all encompassing for me. Yeah, just like innovation is. Yeah.
Yeah. So AI is a complement, not a substitute. I like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's got to be. It's just another tool. You know, and that's why I just try to give some practical little examples if you wanted to build capabilities in organizations now, rather than we're having to go off into the future to do stuff. There's stuff out there that can help organizations, but every organization has a different situation, and has got aspirations to do different things. And if you, like Ricardo talked about, if you take that to a really higher level, impact that next level beyond vision, mission type stuff. So yeah, it'll help you get there. You just got to work out which ones and what your organization can actually survive. Because remember, this is all change management too, and you just can't bombard people with so much stuff. So you've got to use AI to make their lives easier, so that then they can focus more on the important things, which was what we talked about in that other example I gave for the beamable workflow analysis.
Well, great. Well, thank you very much to all the panelists here. This was a great discussion. I love the threads to it all, and thank you all for sharing your work and your perspectives.